Hello. Today I will be going over my literature review. My lit review was on online activism. For this report, I used 6 articles and found 2 themes. The first theme is online activism through independent means, and the second is online activism through dependent means. I also discussed how two-way symmetrical communication was relevant. Okay, so let's get started. So as you can see on the screen, there is a T-chart. On the left side are the articles that fit the independent category, and on the right side are the dependent articles. Now I will discuss why each article belongs in their category. This first article discusses the events that occurred in the Qingdao district of China, where citizens protested the construction of a dangerous pipeline using the social media apps of WeChat and Weibo. This case of online activism is considered independent online activism because the public acted on their own without the backup of a larger corporation. The citizens worked together using social media to stop the construction of a dangerous pipeline. Next, we're going to go over a case that happened in Australia. A few years back, fans of a popular sport created a website to combat the sexual assault allegations against some of the players. The website, called Footy Fans Against Sexual Assault, is an independent effort because the fans acted on their own accord. Our last entry for independent online activism involves the It Gets Better project. The It Gets Better project was a movement started by 2 gay men in an attempt to give advice to at-risk LGBT youth. Although many LGBT youth felt disconnected from the campaign, it still represents a great example of independent online activism because it was started by 2 people not affiliated with a larger corporation. So that's it for independent online activism. Let's review the main points of it. Number 1, they know who their target audience is. Number 2, the creators are great at utilizing social media or websites to attract people. And number 3, of course they act independently without outside help from a larger corporation. Now we're going to take a look at online activism through dependent efforts. Instead of everyday people controlling the online activism space, now they are backed up by larger corporations or nonprofits. Our first dependent online activism example deals with the websites of activist organizations. While the findings for this article concluded that many people fail to see the potential of activism websites due to poor communication, it still provides a great example of dependent online activism. This is because the article is discussing organizations that already exist and were not created by the efforts of the everyday person. These websites are connected to a larger corporation, that's why they're considered a dependent online activism effort. Next, we'll take a look at the websites of climate change organizations, or CCOs. I'm going to refer to climate change organizations as CCOs because it's easier. Like the previous study, this study proved that the CCO website subjects failed at engaging stakeholders through their websites. The two-way communication was bad, and it appears that websites alone aren't enough to engage audiences. The organizations must know their audiences. For example, Footy Fans Against Sexual Assault also used a website, but they knew exactly who their audience was and how to engage them. This study is a dependent effort because it implied that real CCOs were used, which means that actual organizations were analyzed instead of activism efforts from people not associated with any corporation. Lastly, this article dealt with the Me Too movement. This study is interesting because unlike the previous dependent online activism efforts that relied on websites, this campaign utilized social media. While this campaign had its positives and negatives, it's significant because it represented a dependent online activism effort through social media. This campaign demonstrated dependent online activism because the creator used her corporation to help back it up. It would be considered an independent effort if the creator had no organization backup. To be honest, I at first wasn't sure how to place this one, but I ultimately chose dependent because there was an organization that came before and it helped it to succeed. Okay, so that's it for dependent online activism. Yay! Okay, let's go over the main themes that I found. One, I observed that the organizations who used websites weren't that great at utilizing two-way communication between stakeholders. Next, they might have a harder time finding their audience and engaging them enough to stay, especially if they're only using websites. And lastly, of course, they operate through a larger organization or corporation. This is everything that I observed through the 6 articles that I used. I'm not an expert in this field, I just recorded what I found. I hope that my points make sense, and yeah, that's it. That's the video.